We get ready, we jump into the Uber. It was so awkward. So then, 5 minutes before we get into the building, a producer jumps in the front seat. So they must have known. And then that's when they took us around the block, and that's when Sam dropped the news that he was going to bring it up in front of everybody.
Did you watch yourself back and do you think, oh, yeah, I was wrong in certain elements?
I feel like when Sam brought it up with me on the couch, I did get defensive. There was some other things going on as well that you didn't see. You know, one of the producers said, "Chris, how do you feel about Sam calling you a gaslighter again tonight?" And they kind of wind you up. And they wind you up. Not that this excuses my behavior, because let me say that my behavior was disgusting. Something happened to me during filming, and I cannot wait to speak about it. I'm going through the correct avenues at the moment. I'm very confident that justice will prevail in that situation.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sat with Matt. My guest today took part in the reality TV series Married at First Sight Australia, where he married a stranger found by a panel of experts hoping to find love. Instead, he found himself at the centre of one of the season's most talked about storylines, a dramatic baby revelation, a husband who walked away, an unseen dinner party footage that had the whole country talking. Since then, he's been navigating fatherhood, building his businesses, and focusing on the next chapter of his life. So today we're going to be going through all of the juicy drama from both on and off the show, and finding out the truth of what really happened. So please join me in welcoming the fabulous Chris Robinson.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm just back at the farm, obviously. So yeah, I'm really excited to spill the tea and have a chat with you. And yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's been I loved I really wanted to speak to you, and I interviewed Katie from the last season of MAFS, and she was very kind to introduce me to you. So thank you to Katie for making this possible.
Thanks, Katie. I love Katie. I think she's so
Yes,
great. She's
I
such
love
a
Katie. She's such a
yeah,
sweetheart.
yeah.
So as I said in my intro, I mean, people probably can guess from the title and your name and everything, but you were on the show Married at First Sight. I was just wondering, could you perhaps, let's just imagine that anyone watching this may not know what that is. Can you just give a brief explanation of what MAFS is, from your perspective at least?
Okay, so Married at First Sight is where a panel of three experts among producers match you with match you with someone in Australia, and you basically know nothing about them. You don't know what they look like, and you meet them for the first time at the altar, and you get married, and then you move in together that night. And yeah, the experiment lasts for about roughly 3 months, and it's full of drama, love, lots of things go down. So yeah, it's one of Australia's most talked about TV shows, and for very good reason. Yeah, that's MAFS in a nutshell.
Could you perhaps tell us what made you then want to audition for Married at First Sight, or MAFS as it's commonly shortened to?
Okay, so I was sitting at the farm, which is where I am now, and as every gay man does, we're all on the apps, we're all like scrolling through profiles, all that kind of stuff. I do live in the country, so I'm about an hour and 30 minutes outside of Sydney, and the dating pool is very small where I am. The fish pond is very tiny, and I wasn't having a lot of luck with some horrendous ex-partners. And yeah, so I got a message on Instagram asking if I would be interested, and they sent me the link. So I thought, why not? Let's have a try. Maybe I will be or we will be the gay love success story that comes out of MAFS. And that's what I really wanted. So I filled out the application. I sent through a really quick video, and then the producers, called me into their Channel 9 office in North Sydney. Literally, like, I think it was 2 days later, they got me in there. And yeah, I got married to a stranger.
I mean, that's a wild story. And also the fact that you got scouted effectively, because I think a lot of people apply for it, but whereas you got scouted by the sound of it, like you hadn't applied.
Well, we all have to apply. So I got sent a link from I think one of the producers that was working on the show, and I did apply though. So I got sent the link, and I had to apply just like everybody else. But I first got told that that they couldn't find me a match, which is really weird because Sam said a different story on a podcast, but they first said that they couldn't find me a match. And I kind of put it in my no pile. And then I literally got a call on my way home from work one day. And yeah, they said, can you come into the Channel 9 office? And I went into the office and met the executive producers, and I got married 4 days later.
Oh, wow. That is a quick turnaround.
They let me know on the Wednesday when I was driving home from work. I got a call saying, "Hey, we found you a match." And I actually had been watching because they had already started filming Married at First Sight, and I was watching the all the stuff online, and I found out that one of the couples got kicked off for some reason. Two of the other couples left, so there were three couples down. And then obviously that's when they get in intruder couples when the numbers fall off. So Sam, my match on the show, Sam and I were brought in as intruders, and it was very last minute. Yeah, I got told on the Wednesday. I then had Thursday, Friday at work, and then I bought a suit on Saturday, got it tailored, picked it up on Sunday, and I got married on the Monday, I think it was. Yeah, it was so fast.
Oh my God, that is great. That is literally married at first sight and like bam.
Married in 4 days. Yeah.
Gosh, I mean, that's insane. You obviously, okay, so you've mentioned Sam. So Sam was obviously the man that you were matched with by the ex, was your husband for a better lack of term. Could you perhaps walk us through? Because on the show, the way it was shown, you were an intruder couple, as you said, so you came in quite late into the game. From what we saw, I think they were obviously showing it and portraying it as this was like a match made in heaven. You two were so similar. You were both into the same sorts of things. You both had a lot of, I guess, similarities and everything. What did you think when you sort of turned around for the first time and saw Sam and all of that?
So I remember I was really nervous rocking up to the wedding. I remember I was like fidgeting and I was so nervous. And I remember there was a lot of like when we arrived at the venue, they had to keep driving me around the limousine because Sam had arrived and they didn't want us to see each other. So by this time I'd had a couple of glasses of champs, and I remember standing at the top of the stairs, and the producer had his headpiece on, and they were literally, I was waiting there for ages, and then all of a sudden he turns to me and he goes, "Three, two, one, walk." And then I walked down the stairs, and I remember Sam turned around, and he's quite tall and he was handsome, and I was really excited. And I'm not sure if you remember our vows, but they were really aligned. We both love outdoors and fitness and children. Well, yeah, he said in his vows he liked children. But yeah, so my first immediate thought was yeah, this is great. He on paper everything looks great. He's handsome, he's nice, he's kind. Yeah, it was a vibe. I was into it.
Well, that's what I thought when I first saw you. I thought they're both like good-looking guys. They both clearly work out. He's so Sam is a personal trainer as well as, and you have your own personal training gym, I believe. That's
So
correct.
Sam has a a fitness studio.
Fitness studio.
Yeah, and then I also have a PT studio in Redfern in Sydney.
Yes, so you're both obviously into fitness. You both said about you loving the outdoors. Obviously, you live on a farm, so yeah, that's that. Now, the one thing you've mentioned, I mentioned it in my intro as well. The one thing they were really sort of building up kind of afterwards, but they had teased it first, was that you had quite a unique situation in that you had children on the way, but it was sort of slightly more complicated than it sounded. So could you perhaps tell us a little bit about that?
There is something that I want to tell you. Um, but I'm not going to answer that question just yet. Sure. So I had donated my sperm to a very, very good friend of mine that I've known for a very long time. And I probably need to be clear that I'm a donor dad, so that child would not be with me full time. Obviously, in the gay community, our community will know what that looks like, but I think a lot of people outside of that community were kind of a bit confused by that. They thought that maybe that child was going to be with me, but I donated my sperm to a very good friend of mine. Obviously, that child has since been born, and she's really happy and healthy, and she's safe. And then I was also going on my own surrogacy journey with an agency out of Australia, but I was having that surrogacy child in Colombia.
Yes. So yeah. So just to clarify, so you donated your sperm to, I believe it was a lesbian couple. You said,
Yeah.
and then you had a child through there was about to be born through surrogacy and everything. Can you sort of give us a little bit of a because on the show they kind of you did mention it and then you didn't mention it to Sam at the beginning, but it kind of was like a big thing they kept building up and up, and then you eventually had the conversation. When you went into the show, obviously you knew this was going to come up. What was your sort of frame of mind about how you were going to tell that to your husband?
So the producers said to me, obviously this is pretty big news, and like obviously it was. But in hindsight, it was like I was donating my sperm and there'd be a child out there, but that child wouldn't be with me full time. And then I was on my own surrogacy journey to having my child. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I was, it's not as daunting as the show made it out to be. Like, obviously, it's a big thing. It's huge for someone to take on, but they definitely tried to get me to hold off telling Sam as long as I could. And after watching the show and after it aired, I now know why, because it created so much suspense, and it drew people in that I had this big news, and I copped a lot of slack for not telling Sam earlier. And this is why these podcasts are so great, because Sam actually had some news for me, and we had actually spoken, and we said, you know what, let's not put any stress on it. Why don't we just enjoy the experiment and we lean into Married at First Sight, and we will both tell each other after a couple of weeks, right? So I thought, okay, cool. Let's just get to know each other. Let's move in together. Let's do all that. And we will tell each other the news in 2 or 3 weeks, when Sam was ready to tell me his news and I was ready to tell him mine. So that was something that you guys didn't see on the show. That's something that we had spoken about, and we came up with that. And I thought that was really cool. I thought that's great. We can get to know each other. Yeah, they definitely, like, it looked like they had dragged it out, but that's what happened.
Well, exactly that. You said what I wanted to say about these sort of like podcast interviews, or whatever. I think the great thing about them is it gives you a chance to tell your story without an editor or a show trying to sort of like manipulate things or do things. So when you said so, Sam had news for you. What was the news that he had then?
Just out of respect, I'm not going to mention it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't want to do anything wrong. But he did share the news with me, and then on at the same time, so I shared the news of my fatherhood journey with Sam, and then off camera, Sam shared his news with me, and that would be up to Sam to share that. I'm not going to do that to him. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. So that and but was did that happen in the moment when you told Sam, and that was when you were in the apartments at that point, right?
Yeah.
That's
So
when it
what?
happened.
Yeah, so what actually happened is the executive producers pulled me into a room because someone had done a story about me being a father, and they pulled me into the room. They said, how do you feel about telling Sam, can you wait a little bit? I said, no, 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 you know what? It's been long enough. Like, put me back in there. I'll do it. So they quickly got a camera crew ready. And because obviously we're all on the same level, and there was only, I think, 2 teams of camera crew. So they got a camera crew ready within 15 minutes. And I actually was crying in the executive producer's room, because it was just like I wanted to tell Sam in my own time, and I wanted it to be my moment. And I felt like that got taken away from me. But so that's why when I walked into the room and I told Sam the news, they had the camera facing behind me, because I was like clearly had been crying. And but I thought, you know what? Let's rip the band-aid off. Let's tell him. And it was probably about time anyway, so it was fine. And yeah, I had to wait about 10 or 15 minutes in a room on my own. They put a microphone on me, and yeah, I just went straight into the room and told him the news. Yeah.
I mean, that's insane to hear all of the backstory behind it. Because on the show, if I remember correctly, I think the way they framed it was they were going to show you each other's pre-interview tapes in which you spoke about your journey with surrogacy. So he was going to find out anyway, which is how they framed it, that you were then going to tell him because he was about to find out. But so that wasn't really the case then.
No, it was because it got leaked. Yeah, someone did an article about it. So, and I think what they would have, I don't know whether they had planned to show Sam that I was having children in that video. I'm not sure, but it's MAFS. I mean, You don't know.
Oh, I think they would have done if
Yeah,
they.
100%. Yeah, let's be real. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a crazy story. And I thought it was a really interesting moment. But also, Sam actually reacted really well to it. And he was very much, I was thinking he was going to not react that way because I thought, oh, they're building it up. They're putting all the dramatic music on it. But actually, he was kind of fine with it, right? Did that surprise
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. So on camera, Sam took it extremely well. And in that moment, he took it really well. And then obviously he shared his news with me when the camera crew left. And I supported him in that. Um, I'm not sure if you remember, but after the wedding night, Sam made a comment because there's a bit of an age gap between us. Like it's like 5 years or something. Not anything bad, but Sam mentioned that he wouldn't be ready to have children right away, and they really honed in on that. So they kind of built it up into something, yeah, to get. I mean, that's what gets viewers and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, yeah.
Yes, I remember that bit where it was when you were sat down and you were asking about like something like, oh, what would be deal breakers and all that kind of stuff. And he said, well, I'm not ready to have a child tomorrow. And then they kind of zoomed in on your face. And obviously,
Yeah, yeah. And that would have been TV gold for them. Yeah, and that's just the way because I think Sam said, "Look, I'm not ready to have children anytime soon." I thought, oh, I'm kind of right in the middle of trying to have my own child, and I've just, and there's a donor daughter coming, so I'm not sure if that's the right word, but yeah, you know what I mean.
yes. So, sort of moving on with the story. So, obviously, you were this kind of like dream couple. There had been this like big, reveal of the baby or whatever, and it seemed fine. Now, I think the bit where it maybe started to go downhill, unfortunately, was there was the big moment. I think was when you were having the two of you were having a discussion with the experts.
And are you starting to think about life outside the experiment?
I think what it would probably look like is just like, say we go, well, everything ticks the boxes, we'd have a place in Sydney. So he'd go to Sydney. I would stay primarily at the farm and then maybe we can float back and forth for a bit from Sydney to the farm.
And they were talking about what's your 10-year plan and things like that. And you said, well, Sam is gonna we can like go between each other. Sam can come move to my place. And Sam felt like you were almost dictating what's going to happen without consulting him because you hadn't spoken about that before. And that was really, I think, what drove the huge wedge between you for the rest of the season. Can you sort of talk a bit about how you felt that happened compared to what we saw on camera?
So what you saw on camera was correct. Mel, God bless her heart. She said to me, yeah, what does the future? Are you starting to think about the future after MAFS? And for me, Sam didn't really say anything. So I had been thinking the last couple of days. Sam had told me that he wanted to move to either the Gold Coast or Sydney. That is a part you didn't see on the show. You didn't see Sam talking about that, but he openly spoke about the fact that he wanted to get out of Adelaide and live in Sydney or the Gold Coast. And I have a place in Sydney. I've got an apartment above my gym that I own. And I thought to myself, well, this is cool. Maybe, just a thought, throwing it out there, maybe Sam could, go to my apartment. I could stay at the farm because I've got all my animals here and everything, and maybe we could commute. That's a possibility. And my response to Mel at that commitment ceremony was coming, and I stand by this today, came from a place of excitement. It came from a place of joy, and it came from a place of me just thinking about, this could possibly work. And it didn't have to happen right then. Like I would have been fine if Sam and I, let's say we worked out, if Sam and I did long distance for 6 months, 8 months, whatever. And then once we knew that this is really going to work in the real world, that's something that could have happened. Or he didn't even have to live in my place. He could have gotten his own, but whatever. But the show kind of made it out like perhaps maybe that was like me going, this is what's going to happen, blah, blah, blah. It was literally just a nice thought that I had, and I threw it out there, and I feel like I kind of got grilled for it.
Yeah, because that was really the moment when I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the whole show kind of eventually presented that you were almost seen as more like the villain of the two, and then whereas Sam was not. I'm not saying whether that's true or not. I'm just saying that's the perception of it.
Yeah.
So that from then on, I think it started to become clear that Sam was not happy at you and felt like you weren't taking responsibility for dictating what was going to happen, and like as if you weren't listening to anything he said, and then you felt like he was effectively overreacting and you'd already apologized, but he wasn't accepting the apology. Then there came the dinner party where he brought it up in front of everyone, and you obviously weren't very happy. And there was that very awkward ride in the taxi on the way there, which
Oh, man.
can you talk a bit about, like, again, how you felt going into that, but also was there stuff that we didn't see that would have contextualized that anymore, or was that an accurate representation?
Okay, so when all this happened, Sam, brought it up with me, and I said to him, "Look, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to come across that way. It was just a thought. This is not concrete. This was just me thinking out aloud. Maybe I shouldn't have, maybe I should have." There was a lot of other cast members as well that I spoke to, and they said, "Chris, that is so cute. That's so lovely that you're actually thinking about life outside the experiment." But Sam didn't feel the same way. He felt like, I was perhaps making plans without consulting him. That wasn't it at all. And yeah, so obviously we had the chat, and I did get a bit defensive, and that's something that I've done so much work on coming off the show, and I'm a completely different person now. So yes, I could have, been a bit more sensitive talking to Sam, but also on the flip side, I've got people saying to me, "No, that's bloody adorable. I would love for someone to come up with that." So it's kind of like, well, was I being too defensive or was I being cute? It's like, well, I don't know. So yeah, we were getting ready for the dinner party that night, and I had actually come back to the farm, and I had stayed here because the dinner party was on a Monday, and I had come to the farm for 2 or 3 days just to clear my head. And Sam went off and visited his family, so we had some time apart. We came back together on Monday. We were getting ready for the dinner party, and Sam was being so weird. You could cut the tension with a knife in the apartment room. And I said to him, "What's wrong? Are you okay?" And he goes, "Nothing. I'm feeling sick." And I yelled out to the producers, I go, "Guys, he's feeling sick. Can someone get him like some help, or can we do anything?" And he goes, "No, no, no, it's fine. I'm just feeling sick." And I was like, "What is going on? This is so weird." We get ready, we jump into the Uber. It was so awkward in the Uber on the ride to the dinner party. And that Uber ride probably is about 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And he did not say a word to me. And I continually asked him what was wrong, and he wouldn't answer me. He just said, "Nothing, I'm feeling sick." And I'm like, "Oh my God, what's happening?" So then 5 minutes before we get into the building, a producer jumps in the front seat. So they must have known that Sam was, or maybe they told Sam to bring it up at the dinner party. The producer, jumped in the front seat. I'm sitting in the back going, "What's going on? We usually just get dropped off." And then that's when they took us around the block, and that's when Sam dropped the news that he was going to bring it up in front of everybody.
Wow. Okay. Because I remember, because I rewatched the episodes recently to refresh my memory of what happened. Because obviously it's not that long ago since it came out, but it's been a little bit.
Yeah.
Because what I remember was obviously you got in the taxi and there was this really awkward moment, and then Sam kind of said, "Oh, I'm going to bring it up at the dinner table," and you obviously were like, "Well, I don't really want that." So you're saying that you had no idea? Did you at that point then? Did you have no idea there was even a problem, or did you know that something was going to happen?
I actually thought we were fine. When I came back to the apartments, I think Sam and I had exchanged a couple of text messages over the weekend, and it was just common knowledge that we were going to have some breathing space, which is fine. So I had no idea that that was going to go down like that. The fact that the producer got in the front seat of the car told me that maybe that's what they wanted. And for me, I just thought, like I've had some time to reflect and have a think. This is a chat that we could have had. He said on the show that he wanted someone else there because I'm too defensive. That's something that we could have done in the apartments. I felt I did not need to go through that at a dinner party in front of everybody.
Wow. Yeah, I mean that's very interesting context to hear. So you mentioned about exchanging some texts with people because obviously on the show we kind of go from episode to episode and we don't necessarily know how much time has elapsed between. So how long had it been between when you actually got married, then this dinner party? And were you allowed to have communication with each other freely, or were you kind of controlled by the producers to what you could say? Because then at the dinner party, it did get brought up. Now, I think they were kind of different people had different opinions. I think it was almost like they were kind of split. Some people were more on your side, but a lot of people were also on Sam's side. And it was sort of Though it seemed to me at that point, I kind of thought these two, I'm not sure that it seems very rocky now because you were both just so at odds about the whole thing. Did you feel that? Did you think, oh my God, this is over? Or did you think it was something that could be reconciled and it was just for TV?
When Sam did this to me, I thought to myself, this is it wasn't such a big deal. I feel like what Sam did to me made it such a big deal. And I thought, how can I be with someone who is going to make such a big deal out of a fleeting comment that I made to an expert? I just felt really blindsided. I felt betrayed. I felt like it didn't need to be brought up in front of everyone. And for me, that was really hurtful. And yeah, that's what put a big dent in this, yeah, in our relationship at the time.
Looking back on it, did you watch yourself back and do you think, oh, yeah, I was wrong in certain elements? Because I think there has been a lot of criticism against you for the way that you reacted and handled situations. But this isn't me, by the way, trying to get you, like, I'm genuinely asking the question, do you take any blame for it, or do you think that Sam overreacted and that's his fault and you were just portrayed badly?
I feel like when Sam brought it up with me on the couch, I did get defensive. There was some other things going on as well that you didn't see. I had a one-on-one date with Rachel. I love Rachel, by the way. And her and I had a one-on-one date. They didn't show it. They showed everyone, but they did not show Rachel and I having our one-on-one date. And I actually broke down in tears with Rachel at the one-on-one date. And I said, Sam doesn't know the name of my daughter. He doesn't know, I felt like he wasn't really taking an invested interest in some other things outside of my life, whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. And I was already feeling a bit, for lack of better word, broken because I was dealing with all this stuff. And then that happened on top of that. I just felt like, yeah, when Sam brought it up with me, I got defensive because all of what was happening and what I had just offloaded onto Rachel at the one-on-one date, I got a bit defensive, and that is definitely something that I do not do anymore. I have done because this was filmed last year, like this was filmed so long ago. So when I came off the show, I got a life coach and I had some coaching for my business, and I was working as well with a therapist because there was a bit of trauma, and we worked through those things, and we worked out that there's different terms for it, like shadow function and stuff like that. But when I feel hurt, I get defensive. And I have now recognized that. And instead of responding with defensiveness, I should have been a little bit more sensitive and listened to him. But also in the same breath, there is two sides to this. And I feel like, was it really that big an issue? That I came up with a suggestion for us and try to make plans for us after the show. So one thing I did take away from that is, yeah, I got defensive, and that's something that I don't do anymore. But yeah, and in the same breath, it was me legitimately trying to be cute.
So I think, but at that point, it was quite obvious that there was real tension. And then there was the commitment ceremony, which is when one person, both of you have to say whether you want to stay or leave. The rule is if one person says stay, the other person says leave, you have to stay for at least another week. Obviously, if both of you say leave, you leave, as in the experiment right there and then. Now, in that one, I think perhaps not that surprising, but in some ways surprising, was you said leave, but Sam said stay, and he was very hurt by the fact you had said leave.
I've been going back and forth the last couple of days. And I've actually decided that I need and I want to go put my dad hat on, and I would like to leave.
Like I was prepared to take on anything you guys had to say and try and put it into work.
And then I think later on you did say you regretted putting leave that time. Is that accurate?
So what you guys didn't see as well is that I had a failed embryo transfer for my child. So that happened right before that commitment ceremony. And, I didn't tell Sam because he wasn't asking about how it was going. He wasn't asking about my surrogacy journey. And that's fine because that was my journey. And, he was kind of leaving me to it. There was a whole bunch of reasons that prompted me to write leave. And I was going back and forth all day. Like I had the card and the pen and I was like, oh my God, what should I do? And then I thought to myself, you know what? I've got, this donor situation. I'm missing out on the pregnancy of that and helping my friend out. And I've got the farm. Sam has blown up at me over um, a comment about me thinking about our life outside of the experiment. I thought, should I really be here? Have I bitten off a bit more than I can chew? And is this all getting a little bit too overwhelming? Is this going to work? And I thought, you know what? If I write leave and Sam likes me that much, maybe we could, continue this outside of the experiment. Maybe I don't know. So I went back and forth all day, and then I decided to write leave.
And so when Sam said stay and you said leave, that meant you had to stay for another week because that's the rules of the show. Now, in that conversation, the experts did kind of say they kind of brought you to task and said, "Well, did you overreact? Did you get defensive?" And you kind of almost admitted that you did get defensive and you took some blame or accountability or whatever you want to call it. At that point, then, did you think this might work, or had you already, if you're being honest, made up your mind that this was not going to work? You were just going to keep doing it because you had to for the show?
So when Sam wrote stay and I wrote leave, part of the experiment obviously is you have to stay. Hearing Sam talk on the couch, and I did take accountability for being defensive, and I do feel like it just got blown way out of proportion, that one comment that I made to Mel. So I was like, oh my God, you know what? I will take the full rap for this. And if Sam likes me that much and wants to continue, then I will give this another shot. So I then, after I sat down on the couch and I slept on it, I thought, you know what? I'm really excited now. I want to really try and turn this around, and I've taken accountability. And then obviously we went to homestays at the farm.
Yeah, that's what I was actually going to ask. So the homestay, now that was potentially maybe one of the most awkward parts of your sort of journey in a way. So the way they showed obviously was that you arrived in the car, it looked like it was silent, very awkward. Both of you were quite awkward, perhaps understandably so. One thing that people also, I saw this online, so I wanted to ask you about it. I'm sure you probably already talked about it, but a lot of people were saying that when you showed Sam to his room and it was the bunk bed and everything, people noticed that there were the rolled up towels and it looked very much like an Airbnb, not your house.
Yeah.
So what's the tea with that?
Okay, so this is actually the house that you're interviewing me in right now. This is where I live. When I went on to the show, and prior to that, I would Airbnb my house when I wasn't here. So, it's really expensive down here. This farm cost me a lot of money. So sure, I get a little bit of help on my mortgage when I'm not here. And my cleaner is an Airbnb cleaner. And when I told her to clean the apartment, I just said, hey, can you give the apartment a good clean? I didn't say why because we weren't allowed to talk about why we're, what we were doing. So she cleaned the apartment, and yeah, she rolled the towels up on the bed like she would for an Airbnb guest. And when I was on the show, like a lot of the other cast members did, like Alyssa did the same thing. We Airbnb'd our houses while we were filming because you only get paid. I think it was like $1,500 a week, which is not a lot, like to try and today's economy. So a lot of us Airbnb'd our houses during filming, and yeah, mine actually booked out so fast when I put it on during filming that I only just moved back in a few months ago because I had all these bookings come through and I had to see them all out. So yes, and I don't do that anymore. I'm living back here permanently now, but yes, my house was a part-time Airbnb.
Because a lot of people felt like, I think a lot of like sort of the accusations against you, because you were already potentially seen as like the villain of the two. I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying that's what people thought. People thought that you were kind of shoving him in some Airbnb and pretending it was your house.
No, it's so funny. And you know what else is really funny? And you didn't see this, I offered Sam the main room, the big room. And they didn't show me on camera. I said, why don't you have the big room? It's a lot bigger. There's a king bed, and I will sleep in the bunk beds. And no, he opted for the second room. They didn't show any of that. And it was like I was shoving him into this little tiny room with the bunk beds. No, that's not the case at all. And you know what else is really interesting? I would have been okay to sleep with Sam that night. I was fine. Like we could have shared a bed. I was cool.
Because, well, the thing that I thought was it did come across as being very awkward. And I think they showed more of you being awkward, I guess, because you were the host. And then there obviously was then the moment when you were sat outside and Sam had prepared questions he wanted to ask you. because he said I want to have like honesty and everything, and then he asked you a bunch of questions asking if you were going to take accountability, and then afterwards you said I felt like a school child being told off by my teacher.
So I wrote some questions down, and maybe we could just be like really raw and honest with each other about all the answers. Do you accept full responsibility for your defensiveness and the aggression I felt from you last week?
What are you referring to?
Like the way you treated me at the dinner party. Do you realise my awkwardness and silence towards you was a direct result of your behaviour, not me being cold for no reason?
I'm so over it. Like, honestly, I'm so over it. Like, you've seen how hard I work on a daily basis. I've got so much going on. I'm so over it.
Can you sort of tell us a bit about what that was like filming that? Because I can only imagine seeing it on camera, what it must have been like knowing that there was obviously all these producers and camera crew watching you do that. Was that part of the awkwardness, or were you just awkward anyway?
So at that point, when Sam brought out the notepad, I was not awkward at all. I actually was so excited and happy because I thought we were making some solid ground. And where it started getting awkward was when we left for homestays, we got in the car and I hadn't seen Sam again for a couple of days. I got in the car and Sam would not talk. Like, it was just so awkward. And Sam also said that he was awkward, and I tried to make a bit of conversation when we made the trip out. It wasn't happening, so I thought, cool. Sam actually went to sleep, so I put my sunnies on, listened to music. We went to the farm, and then we had a chat by the horses. Do you remember the chat by the horses? And I took accountability for my behavior, and I kind of just thought, I'm going to take all the rap for this, and I will take accountability for my behavior because it wasn't the best. And I thought we were great. We had an well, and I've heard Sam talk on podcasts. And he was feeling a bit different. I genuinely had no idea that we were in such a bad place. We went, you didn't see this, but we went for a cruise on my buggy up the back to the farm, and we went and did some work on the cattle, and we had a great day. And they said to us, we're going to have a bonfire and some scotch. And I was like, yes, I love this. I love scotch and a bonfire. So we got all dressed up. I put my R.M. Williams boots on and, blah, blah, blah. And then we sat down at the bonfire, and there was camera crew. The bonfire's just outside that window, and the camera crew were like in my kitchen just behind me filming through the window, and they were outside on the veranda. And I had no idea that Sam was going to pull out the notebook, and I had no idea that he was going to break up with me.
I kind of want to be someone's number one priority.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
think I've realised.
I understand that.
I think I've realised that being here. I think my feelings are like, they're pretty gone. I can't see this working.
So you were genuinely completely taken by surprise when he said about breakup? Because at least for me watching it, maybe because the show obviously sort of sets it up that way, but I thought these two aren't going to last because it just seems like there's too many problems and they've been arguing so much or whatever. Obviously, we don't see everything. So when he said, let's break up, I was not hugely surprised, if I'm honest, but you seemed a little bit more surprised. But then in some of your confessional, your sort of talking heads, you didn't seem that surprised. So I was curious as to what your genuine reaction was.
So I remember just before the bonfire, I was FaceTiming some girls from the show, and I was like, I'm so excited, we're about to go have a bonfire. I was so happy. I thought, and the night before I cooked Sam pasta, which was watery apparently. And I cooked him some pasta, and I remember he was sitting on the couch that's just behind me, and I looked at him and I thought, oh my God, there's those feelings that I had right in the beginning. Like, oh my God, it's coming back. Yay. We're on a good path. Yay. Love that. So then when I went into the bonfire, I thought we were sweet. I thought we were great. I thought we were just gonna have a little chat, talk about the farm and blah, blah, blah. And then, Sam pulled out the notepad, broke up with me. I was 1000% surprised, but in a way, I kind of was relieved. Because after he read everything from the notepad, I thought him and I are not a match. This is not going to work moving forward. I thought, listen to what he's got to say in the notepad, take it on board. I tried, and I thought this is not going to work. So yeah, I was surprised, but there was a part of me that was somewhat relieved as well.
Yeah, I can see that from both sides. Obviously, then the rest of the story, I mean, as you can sort of imagine, you'd already broken up. He left the homestay. And then you did have the commitment ceremony where you both said leave, unsurprisingly. So that was kind of the end of your story, effectively. I think the other big thing that probably went against you on the show in a lot of ways is that there was obviously the clip from the after the dinner party, which is almost like a behind the scenes thing, which is when you and Gia, I believe, you made some comments about Sam. Kind of, a lot of people felt like you were mocking him for living in shared accommodation, basically using coupons and not having as much money as you.
You know, Sam, you just lost the best thing that ever happened to you. I stuck out this experiment for 5.5 weeks. I dealt with your fucking shit. And I apologized 5 times for something that I didn't even need to apologize for. Sorry that I can facilitate that lifestyle, but I do have a farm and I do have a property in Sydney. I'm sorry, babe. Like, you share accommodation with 3 other people and you don't pay for dinner.
I think that's what, in a lot of people's eyes, turned people against you and onto Sam being the hero rather than the villain. I'm not saying that that's true. I'm just repeating what happened. How did you feel then when you saw that on TV?
So when I saw that, yeah, it was basically they filmed a double Voxy with Gia and I, and Sam and Beck, obviously, you know, Beck from the show, they walked past us and they made it look like Sam and Beck had just absolutely annihilated us in their Voxy. And then they got Gia and I to come in. It was very well thought out by the producers, and basically they just, you know, one of the producers said, Chris, how do you feel about Sam calling you a gaslighter again tonight? And they kind of wind you up. And they wind you up. Not that this excuses my behavior, because let me say that my behavior was disgusting, and it was in the heat of the moment. We all say shit we regret, and I definitely regret that. And as soon as I saw that footage, I text Sam and I apologized. I said to Sam, I'm so sorry. That came from a place of hurt, and it was a heat of the moment thing. I'm really sorry. And you know, they kind of made it look like Sam and Beck had thrown us. So yeah, Gia and I were not the best versions of ourselves, and I said some shit. I definitely regret it, and that's not who I am. And I've, you know, said sorry, and I've taken accountability for that. Sam said that he lived in share accommodation, and the coupon thing, like he had something on his phone that he used like to get or he wanted to go to a restaurant that was on his coupon thing. Like, it just got blown way out of proportion. And yeah.
Okay, so and that footage was shot after the dinner party, but before all of the rest of the stuff had happened. But he didn't get shown that until later on after you'd already broken up?
So that was filmed after the dinner party where Sam threw me. Well, I felt he threw me under the bus again, and yeah, they filmed that little bit after the dinner party. So obviously, you've had a couple of wines, you're pissed off, you know, you're tired. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning or something, and yeah, you know, I wasn't the best version of myself, and I've taken full accountability, and I've apologized to Sam. You know, at the end of the day, we're all human. I mean, I'm sure you've said some things to people that you regret. I've done it as well. Unfortunately, this just played out in front of all of Australia.
Yes, yes, it certainly
And
did.
the UK and everywhere else that it went. But yeah, it was a moment, and I've said sorry to Sam, and I didn't mean it. It was in the heat of the moment.
Okay, so that obviously sort of concludes the story of the what happened on the show. So unfortunately, it didn't work out with you and Sam. I guess what a lot of people would like to know, but there was the reunion and everything, but obviously that was a while ago. So how is your relationship now with Sam? Like, have you spoken? What's been any kind of connection or relationship between the two? Because you said you wanted to stay friends on the show, but is that true? One thing I wanted to pick up on about was, so you mentioned obviously there was the sperm donor, which is kind of that child's been born, but you're not looking after that child. That child like has parents or whatever. You were just the donor. With your with the surrogacy, you obviously shared, unfortunately, that one of the embryo didn't take, so it didn't. The child wasn't born, basically. Can you just give us an update? Am I correct in that?
Yeah, so basically, I transferred an embryo halfway through filming before that commitment ceremony, and it was unsuccessful.
So, what can you tell us about what's happened? Because I think I read somewhere, and when maybe one of your other appearances you've done since then, that you were planning to go back to Colombia to do something later this year or try again. Is that correct?
And so I had 2 embryos, and the second embryo was transferred 3 weeks before reunion was filmed, and that one was looking really good. I thought that I was pregnant, not me, obviously, the surrogate, and that was looking really great. Then I found out, I think 2 or 3 after reunion, that The surrogate lost that one as well. So yeah, that was really heartbreaking. I have since gone and with the same agency, obviously, found a new donor. And I now have 4 healthy embryos, and it looks like I will be going back to Colombia at the end of the year. So basically, I've had a bit of time to heal and let the dust settle, and then now I will be trying again.
So, can you tell us a little bit about what have you been up to then since MAFS and like filming Wrapped? What was it like then seeing it back? The public reaction to it, because obviously there's a gap between it being filmed and when the public see it. And can you tell us a bit about where you are in your life now?
Yeah, so after the show filmed, it was obviously a lot. And, I was having the support from my friends and family. I obviously retreated back to the farm and I just grounded myself here. Since filming, I have started back at work, which is great. I've put a tiny home down at the farm because everyone saw the farm on homestays and loved it. So there's actually 2 tiny homes here. So I'm doing that. I'm really busy with that. I've, been horse riding as much as I can. I've been spending time with my animals, reconnecting with my friends and family, and just kind of living my best life. So it's been really good, and I'm training every day. I'm going running, and I don't really drink alcohol anymore. We all saw how I got after a couple of wines. Got a bit sassy, so life's good. I'm really excited and hopeful for the rest of this year and what's to come.
So now that the show's been obviously out for a long time and everything, with something like MAFS, I feel like the cast quite often they kind of burn bright at the time because the show is so big and it's so sort of famous. But a lot of the times things sort of drop off after a while. Maybe when the new series comes out, especially, there hasn't been one yet, but when it does come out, people kind of move on to the next thing. What would you say to someone who's potentially thinking of going on MAFS? Like, what would be your advice to someone?
My advice for anyone going on Married at First Sight is choose one person, and that one person you need to speak to every morning before you start filming, and that person needs to bring you back to reality, and that person needs to remind you of what that show is about. It thrives on drama and it thrives on, all that kind of stuff. You need someone to bring you back to center because you do get caught up in all of it. And I wish I had someone that, could have just brought me back to reality a little bit and reminded me of who I was. Yeah. And I think it's important as well. Like I just got signed with an agent, Zeus, which is really exciting. So they reached out to me and I've got an agent now, which is really great. So I'm using my time on the show, my exposure to see if, I didn't find a husband, but I'm going to try and do my best to use the exposure that I got. So to anyone looking at there, look at that. And obviously when the new season comes out, people kind of forget about us. So yeah, do as much as you can while you can.
Do you get recognized when you go out?
Oh, like every day. So I just went down to the shops before and I've got people still taking photos of me and everyone's asking about the children and, am I dating and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's very, and I just went to Queensland on the weekend and, through the airports especially, everyone recognizes you there. But I don't really go out a lot because I live on the farm. My days of clubbing in Sydney are over. So yeah, I don't really go out a lot, but yeah, you do get recognized.
Well, I think that's very interesting that you've had that experience and you've had like that taste of what it's being like going on a reality TV show and all of that. But now you're kind of focused on the next chapter of your life, living your best life at the farm, riding your horses and doing all of that kind of stuff. One thing I'd love to go through is I have some fact or fiction questions. It's just like they're just a bunch of random questions. Some of them are based on truth. Some of them are just completely made up just to see your reaction kind of thing. So let's play a little game of fact or fiction. So, fact or fiction, you wrote your vows the night before the wedding.
Fiction.
When did you write them?
As soon as I got the yes that I was on the show, they got me to start writing my vows.
Okay. Fact or fiction, you stole something from the set of MAFS.
Yeah, I feel like I did. Oh, I did actually. I stole, the little honesty box challenge where they have the little questions. I stole the honesty box and the question.
So there's some irony in that you stole the honesty box.
No, yeah. I have to take something. I wish I had taken a photo, actually, of Sam and I. That would have been cool. Although, do you really want to look at your ex-husband every day? Probably not. So yeah. I needed something. I took the honesty box.
You kept it as a memento. Um, we kind of mentioned this there, but fact or fiction, you've been recognized out and about, but you've pretended not to be you.
Fact.
Oh,
I
who
did
do you
that.
pretend to be?
I did that once. Someone came up to me and I just was not in the mood to answer any questions about maths. And someone said, "Are you that guy from maths?" I said, "No, that's my twin brother."
Did they believe it?
They were kind of like, "Oh, I don't know whether they believed it," but I just walked off. It was at a service station near the farm, and he ran up to me. He goes, "Are you that guy off maths?" And I just was not in the mood that day to talk about it. I said, "No, no, no, that's my twin brother." But I have tattoos and things that so I don't know whether I doubt he believed it, but I ran off anyway.
Fact or fiction, you and Sam slept in the same bed during the experiment.
Half fact, half fiction. In fact, this is a really good one because on the show, most of the like I would even say like 80% of the time, I was actually in a separate bedroom in the same apartment. And when they filmed wake ups in the morning, which is basically, we had already been to the gym and done all this stuff, and then we come back and you've got to pretend to wake up and whatever. I had actually been sleeping in another room. Also, I snore a little bit as well. So, they actually, I don't think they really showed much of that, but there was a lot of the times where I was in a separate room.
Because of the snoring, or they told you had to be in a separate room?
No, they wanted us to sleep in the same room, but the wedding night, for example, I just felt like I didn't want to share a bed with a stranger, so I actually slept on the couch that night, and they filmed us in bed and kind of made it look like we had shared the same bed. But yeah, a lot of the time I was in a separate room.
Interesting. Fact or fiction, you've blocked someone from your cast.
Fiction. I haven't blocked anyone.
Would you want to block someone?
To be honest, not really. I don't hate anyone from the show. The only person I really probably wouldn't talk to was Tyson.
So, is there anyone who's like your best friend from the cast?
Rachel.
Okay.
So I speak to Rachel the most, and yeah, like I just spoke to her before I did this podcast, and I'm actually going to Wagga to stay at her place, and she's coming to the farm after that. So yeah, I'm very close with her.
Oh, lovely. Fact or fiction, you would do another reality TV show if it was offered to you?
Fact. No more dating shows though. I would do like travel guides or something fun, but I would never do a dating show again.
Interesting. So my final question, but I guess I'll change it slightly because I was going to say, would you go back on MAFS if they asked you? But so fact or fiction, or I guess not really. How much would they have to pay you to go back on another series of MAFS?
Oh, that's a good question. It would have to be a lot. And you know what? Knowing what I know now and like how it all works, I would go in with a very different attitude.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. One thing also, before we sort of close this off, we kind of spoke about this before. Now, we're not going to talk about it, but there is something that has been talked about with you that we have not spoken about so far, but there is going to be some news. I just kind of want to hand over to you in terms of what you want to say about it.
Of course. Yeah. Something happened to me during filming, and I cannot wait to speak about it. I'm going through the correct avenues at the moment, and I would definitely love the opportunity to tell you my side of the story. In fact, I cannot wait to tell you my side of the story, and I'm very confident that justice will prevail in that situation.
Great. Well, just wanted to put that out there. But so thank you so much, Chris. It's been absolutely lovely speaking to you. I thought you were such an interesting character on the show, regardless of whether it worked out or not. I think it was so cool to have, like I said, extra representation for the gay or the LGBT plus community in general. Is there anything you'd like to promote or plug, or like, where can people find you? What can people expect from you going forward?
Yeah, I would love a little promo moment. Yeah, I head over to my Instagram to follow my journey, and you can follow me. I just make funny farm TikToks and uploads, and I've also got the fatherhood journey. My handle's it's.chris.robinson. If you want to come over and follow my journey, I would love that. I looked at my insights the other day, and I've got all the gays and the girls following me. So if that's you, head on over and yeah, have a laugh with me and follow my journey. I would absolutely love that.
Great. Thank you so much, Chris. It's been absolutely a pleasure speaking to you. I wish you all the best, and I obviously hope the best with like the children surrogacy journey, but also you living your life on your farm, your gay farm. So I hope to see more of the gay farm.
The rainbow farm.
That's great, the rainbow farm.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
My
Bye.
pleasure. Thanks for having me. Bye.